Dude, I'm doing good, man. Oh, I just got out of the shower. I'm all over the place, but I am ready. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're recording. Okay, John Andrews, man. Thanks for being on the podcast. How are you? Where are you right now?
In Dover, New Hampshire, in my living room.
Is that where? Oh, that's where you live. Are you from there?
I'm from New Jersey, but I moved up to New Hampshire probably in like 2016, something like that, 2015, I think.
Oh, cool. Why? How? Why? How? Are they close to each other? I've never been to New Hampshire.
No. No, they're pretty far. New Jersey and New Hampshire are probably about like 6 hours apart. But I lived in Boston for years playing in bands. And I had buddies up here that lived in a really awesome situation, like an old farmhouse.
Cool.
They had an extra room for rent, and I just rolled the dice and moved up here. I only really knew them, but I moved up to New Hampshire and was just like, it seems like a cool place to live.
Yeah. Is it more affordable than Jersey or Boston?
That situation was very affordable. That was a super old like farmhouse, and our landlord was like 90 years old. And at that point in time, we were only paying like $200 each per rent. It was super cheap. It was like
really cheap.
Yeah, I was able to be like a touring musician and pay rent.
Right. That's crazy, which is like impossible. So sometimes impossible to do, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Boston's a crazy place. I finally played there for the very first time. What are your thoughts on that Boston scene? Like, I think it's pretty cool.
I loved it, man. I kind of caught the very tail end of a really cool era in this town called Jamaica Plain in Boston. There was like this house called the White House, and just a bunch of like weird hippies and noise musicians that kind of like, had something going on. Every weekend they had like hootenannies where anyone could come and play like a song or two that would go until like 3 a.m. So it was a really like vibrant scene for a while. And then it just kind of, like everything, it just kind of changed. Yeah.
Were you kind of band hopping, or did you have your own project, or what were you doing at the time?
At that period of time, I moved up to Boston to play in this band Quilt.
Okay.
Quilt was like a Boston band, and I like basically dropped out of school and moved up there to like tour with them.
Oh, that's great. So I did ask the internet for questions, and someone did mention Quilt. Let me see if I can find that question. They want... Oh, this is awesome. I should have organized this a little bit better. I think oh my God. I'll find it, and I'll just... Oh, duh. It's the second one. Is there a possibility for more Quilt music in the future?
We've been talking about putting together like a cassette of unused material and like live stuff. But probably not like a new record. We all live in totally different places, and we're all like very good friends, but we're just doing our own stuff. We put out 3 records and felt really like satisfied with that. And sometimes you don't want things to go on for too long. Like,
totally.
Like The Office,
Right. Yeah. I think what's crazy about The Office, I think that there's a whole generation of people who didn't realize like the flows of that show. Like there was a time where nobody was watching that show, or like it lost its spark, but now it doesn't matter because you all binge it at once and it's all the same thing. But there was a moment, and I feel that's the same way. I just talked to KCRW about this, but like, they're like, how'd you find out about, I was talking about Tim Buckley, and he has different ebbs and flows in his career. But to me, I just downloaded his shit off torrents, and I got every album at once. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. He does folk, he did jazz, and he did funk. And I just feel like that's just the way things are now, unless you're living in the exact moment and you feel, oh, okay, this is a transitional period for them, or maybe you have to put yourself in that mind space. I don't know. Where do you feel like you are at in your ebbs and flows of your career now?
I've been thinking about that a lot recently, actually. I don't know where the Yawns is currently in. I think about like how artists can have a certain era, like the Beatles had their like early stuff,
right?
And when that was coming out, like everyone just accepted that was the Beatles. Like now we know that the Beatles had like their psychedelic era and like their whatever like songwriter era. But in that moment, everyone was just like accepting like this is what the band is, you know?
Yeah.
And it's cool, like each release, you know, that comes out, you learn something new about a previous record. You know what I mean? Like you're able to interpret a previous record differently when a new release comes out, you know?
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's like you're saying like binge listening, you're able to do that. You're able to do that, but it's also like pretty, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when it's happening in real time, when you're like watching an artist and they sound like this and then their next record sounds like this, like sometimes you're disappointed in this weird way.
I see that.
But then like looking back on it, it's like you have to change. Like if you're not evolving, then like what you're holding on to something that maybe you shouldn't hold on to.
So I was kind of doing that with you. I listened to your first album, the Yawns' first record, and then the next record. And one thing I noticed off the bat immediately was the production style. I felt like the first record was a lot cleaner, and then the next record you found a good groove where it was like you found a great way to edit your voice, or maybe, you know, where take out the lows or whatever, but you found a nice way to add a good mix. Like what were the big differences when recording that first record to the second record with like drivers and all that?
I mean, the first record was me just figuring stuff out and like learning as I was doing. And when I listen back to it now, there are parts of me that feel kind of embarrassed listening to it. But you know, at the same time, I'm happy it's out there. And
the songs are great. I'm not saying the songs are weird or anything. The songs are great. I'm just talking about on the production.
Totally. But in general, like when you're like evolving as a songwriter, you know, I'm glad that early stuff is like available for people to hear, because when you listen to it all like in sequence, like I guess you can hear me grow throughout it, you know, you know, that early stuff is very different than the new record that I'm about to put out.
Yeah.
It's just all me learning and like going through different phases of listening to different types of music and what having fun.
Yeah. Take us there, man. What were you listening to during the first record and the second record?
I honestly don't.
Yeah. It's a hard.
I don't remember. I remember liking like Kevin Ayers a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, to be honest, I really don't remember what I was listening to when I made Bit by the Fang, because that was a really long time ago.
Totally.
To me, at least. But Bad Posture came out, and obviously I was like into like I've talked about this before, but like this record by Elise Weinberg, I really liked. It's called Grease Paint Smile.
Let me write that down.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think she only had one or two records, but cool. I really enjoy that one. And that was a big inspiration. Neil Young plays guitar on it. So like, sick. You know, obviously I love Neil Young.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome,
like most people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we met in Santa Barbara at Derek's house show. You were doing like a house show tour.
Yeah. That was a fun show.
Yeah, man. I remember I think you and I talked about Michael Hurley.
Probably. Yeah, I love Michael Hurley.
So I'm guessing you're probably maybe listening to some of him. Let's talk about that tour, I guess. Like, how was that tour? How was the rest of that tour? Because I only saw you on that one date, and then how you looking back on that thing, how was it?
It was amazing. It was a really like eye-opening tour, because that was the first time I've toured across the country like many times. I like don't even know how many times I've done a full US tour at this point, but that was the first time I ever did one completely by myself. I was just in the van and had a bed in the back of my van, and I was doing all that shit, but just alone across the country. It was amazing. And that road trip actually has a big part of like that's a big part of my upcoming record, that specific road trip. I like wrote a few songs while I was on that trip.
Cool.
For my upcoming record. But yeah, it was sick. Like that was right around the time when the original lineup of my band broke up, and I was just like, you know what? I like just bought a tour van, and then we broke up, and I was like, like I need to like get my money's worth of this thing. So
Yeah.
I booked a solo tour totally through Instagram. It was crazy.
Interesting.
I was just like, I'm driving across the country, whether or not I'm playing shows. If I can play in your living room or like in your bar or wherever, I will. And people just hit me up, and I was able to book the whole tour in like just a couple of days. It came together really quickly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how long was the tour? I guess like 3 weeks?
No, it was like a little over. It was probably like about 5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember you saying something about trying to see all these like classic rock monuments in the United States. Did you see all of them?
I saw a bunch. I think that day that I played that show, I went to the Canned Heat Mansion, or like what's left of the Canned Heat Mansion. It's kind of just a bunch of ruins at this point. There's graffiti everywhere. It's like you're in like what's the name of that area?
Is it in Goleta?
Is it Laurel Canyon? I forget.
Laurel Canyon. Oh. Possibly.
I don't know. You're like in this really nice area, and there's all these like strict mansions everywhere. And then
is it super windy, like super crazy windy?
Oh yeah.
It's probably Laurel Canyon. Yeah.
And then you kind of just like go around the bend, and there's this abandoned like mansion with graffiti all over it. And yeah, that was like the Canned Heat Mansion. I just went and
that's awesome.
Rummaged around. Yeah. Like when I was a teenager, that's like all we did in New Jersey. There was a magazine called Weird New Jersey that had like just like a list of haunted places you can go to, and we would just drive around at night and like do that kind of stuff.
Did you see any ghosts? Do you believe in ghosts?
I believe in ghosts, but I didn't see any.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
Maybe. I don't know. I've had weird things happen. I can, you never know if it's your imagination or if it's someone trying to contact you. I believe in that stuff though. There's definitely, things going on that we're not aware of for sure.
Especially on tour. Cause you feel like you're so out of it to begin with. Like, what's the crazy thing that's happened on tour? Either supernatural or not supernatural.
Just so many weird coincidences happen when you're like on the road, like so many. One that's pretty crazy, that happened to me I don't remember. It was a while back.
Yeah.
But we were at South by Southwest, and I'm always taking photos of everything. I always have like a disposable camera.
Cool.
And I lost my disposable camera at South by Southwest and was pretty bummed. I'd been taking pictures with it the whole tour. And I run into a friend from New Jersey, my friend Dominique, and we're just like, shooting the shit, like catching up, like, yo, how's it going? Like, what are you doing down here? And then she was like, randomly, she was just like, you been taking any pictures while you're down here? Because she knew that I like taking photos. And I was like, I was, but I freaking lost my camera. And she was like, is this it? And she straight up pulled a disposable camera out of her pocketbook. And I was like, dude, I think that's it. And she was like, I just found this like on a picnic bench yesterday and just randomly picked it up. Yeah, and she gave me the camera, and I got the pictures developed, and it was my camera.
No.
And someone else had found it in between.
Took a couple pics.
There's photos of just some random ass people on it. Yeah. And she just took, found it and picked it up, and it made its way back to me. Stuff like that happens all the time.
Dude, you should post those pictures on Instagram and be like, is this you? This is like a missed connections.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. Is touring, you've toured the country so many times now. Is it still fun for you? I guess the travel aspect, not the performance. Of course, the performance is always fun, but like...
I would love to go on tour right now.
Right, yeah.
But we gotta wait it out a bit. But, to be honest, like, prior to COVID, I was feeling pretty burnt out on the road because I've played in Quilt, Woods, Cutworms, Hand Habits, and Neons, and we've all had like full touring schedules. And it's just, I've lived my life since I was 20 years old. Like I've always had something booked
Yeah.
2 months ahead of, from the present. So I've always had something booked. And then, COVID happened and it's like everything's canceled for the foreseeable future. So I was feeling kind of burnt out on it, and I was ready to take a break, but maybe not this long of a break.
Not this long of a break, yeah. And on your own terms too,
Yeah.
So you toured with Woods, Cutworms, and Hand Habits. Like, what were you playing in each of those bands? I know Cutworms, I think I saw you were playing keys, but
I played keys in Cutworms. I played keys in Woods. I went through a period of time when I was playing a second drum set in Woods.
Oh, cool.
And then I played drums in Hand Habits.
How'd you like playing the second kit? I've only seen like one other band do that live.
It was all right. It was fun. It was fun. I like playing keys more though.
Oh,
so
okay.
I started off playing keys in that band, and then I started playing that second kit, and I was like, I kind of miss playing keys. It was still really fun. Aaron from Woods is just like the craziest drummer. So keeping up with him is kind of wild. But yeah, it was fun.
What did you learn first? Are you a drummer or are you a keys player?
I took piano lessons when I was like 5 years old, but I didn't really stick with it. Yeah. And then drums was probably like the first instrument that I was like super pumped on and like actually like took lessons and practiced. And
how old were you when you took up drums?
Like 12. Like it was like the era when, I was like listening to Green Day and stuff like that.
Same. Yeah.
Like, all that great MXPX and Less Than Jake and all that. So like me practicing drums as a 12-year-old probably drove my mom insane because I had like a boom box and I would just blast like Green Day International super hits and just play drums along with that,
Trying to learn the opening drum fill to Blink-182. What's that song name though? I took her out on the very first date.
First date, yeah.
First date. I guess it's called First Date. Yeah, trying to learn that drum fill was like all of 7th and 8th grade for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I got that far.
I don't think I even learned it. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Did you like taking drum lessons? I did drum lessons for like 4 years, and
really?
I think it helped, but I don't know. Maybe I could have gotten there without it. What do you think?
For me. It was really helpful up to a certain point, and then I was just like, I think I can just play in a band now.
Right.
Like I was like, I think I'm ready, and I didn't really have that mindset that I could always get better.
Yeah.
I back then when I was like 12, I was like, okay, I'm like good enough to play in a band. Let's do it. And after that, I like didn't practice as much. I didn't like take it as many, I didn't take any more lessons after that point.
Yeah.
But I wish I stuck with it more because, when you can hold down a groove, like Noah, who plays drums for me, is like one of the most incredible drummers I've ever seen live. I wish I could do what he could do, but I can hold it down with a steady, like harvest drum beat,
Right. And so when you're touring with Hand Habits, like, I guess it's like it has to be completely different because I still have yet, even though I started off with drums, I never toured as a drummer. Like you have to set up the kit, break down the kit. Like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
So much work. Yeah. I've been lucky because Kevin, who played bass in Hand Habits, was always very helpful, and he'll just like help me tear down the drum kit. He doesn't have to at all, but he's just like a nice guy. But dude, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh man. And
that's why I'm so envious of like my friends who are just like instrumental acoustic guitar players like Daniel Bachman and stuff, because he just rolls up to a venue and points a microphone towards his acoustic guitar, plays it for a second. He's like, all right, we're all good. Sound check is over. Same with that band Mountain Man. Mountain Man is the same way. Mountain Man's like, one acoustic guitar and then 3 vocals.
Right.
I'm like envious of that. They can tour in like a car,
Meanwhile, you're in the back and they're like, okay, hi-hat.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that tom. Doom, doom, doom. It's like,
totally.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Let's hear the whole kit. And it's just like, fuck. All right. Like, it sounds good. Like, I don't know. But I get it. I don't know. So, like, sound checking is always like, I guess The part where I'm like, can someone else do this? And I guess when you get like really big, people do it. And then that's why people do it. But I don't know. Yeah. It's the rich. I remember I've always had this feeling, but like I remember when I was like 18, I had a friend who was just like, no, dude, it's about the ritual and the tradition of being in a band to set up your own gear and mic and check it. I'm like, I feel like I could skip that part, but I get it. I get the tradition of it. Yeah.
Totally. I understand that. Hey, right now, I haven't played a show in so long.
Yeah.
I would take that like patronizing sound engineer any day of the week now. Like I'd be thankful to have that super mean sound engineer at this point. You know what I mean?
I'll set up the other band's kit. I don't give a fuck at this point. Yeah. I love it. What were kind of some of those differences? Woods, Cutworms, and Hand Habits. I feel like those are pretty similar bands, but also different levels in their career. Like, did you learn different things from each level?
Yeah, kind of. Like, well, going back to like Quilt, which is the band that I played in like first, like we started everything at the same time. Like we were experiencing everything for the first time together, which was really special. And like, I look back on that and I'm like, oh man, like those were the freaking days. Woods, they were an established band for like years, and they're at like a much higher level. They've like done everything a million times by the time I joined the band. But like I was experiencing new things with them, but they were things that they have been doing for a while. So, I learned so much from them. I learned so much from every band that I played with. I've learned so much. Yeah. That's like one of my favorite parts of playing with a bunch of people. Like you will turn into such a different musician depending on like who you're playing music with.
Right. I imagine that, with Woods being so established, there's like a professionalism. You're like, oh, that's how you're supposed to, that's the efficient way of sound checking. Oh, was there anything like that though in particular? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because Jarvis from Woods is like, he's a producer and a sound engineer. So I learned so much from him just, in the studio too.
Right.
Thinking back to the first record that I worked on with him, like, dude, I didn't know anything. I was like recording songs in my bedroom, which I still do now, but yeah, they've taught me so much. I'm like super thankful for that.
How'd you get connected with Woods?
I was always just a fan, and we needed someone to record and produce Quilt's second record. And I was like, what if we asked Jarvis? Jarvis did a Widow's Peak record. I love the first Widow's Peak record, which I love. And I was like, we should work with him. And it just worked out. And he asked me to play keys in Woods, like while we were, working on those sessions, which was like the dream come true for me because I was just a fan. I had their very first record in 2007 when it first came out.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Is that kind of weird too? Like when you meet someone you've been listening to for a while, or was it pretty natural?
Back then when I was like, I was 21 or 22 when I first met Jarvis. Back then I was like I was like nervous. For some reason.
Totally.
I don't really get like that anymore.
No.
I just like don't care. I'm just like, we're all just people trying to play music. I don't care how famous you are.
Totally.
The only time I get nervous around anyone is if I meet like a pro skateboarder.
Yeah. It's always someone outside of music.
Yeah. If I meet like a pro skateboarder, I'm like, how's it going? That's when I'll like fan out. Like even to this day, like I don't like really leave comments on Instagram or anything, but like I'll straight up be a fanboy and leave comments on like Andrew Reynolds, like Instagram, be like, yo, what's up?
So sick, dude.
I'm 30 years old and I do that.
Totally. Is skateboarding a big part of your growing up?
Yeah. I grew up skateboarding. It was like my entire life. And I stopped skating in my like early 20s, and I've just been trying to get back into it in the past like a couple of years. But yeah, that just took over my life 100%. And I credit skateboarding, for getting me into cool music and getting me into cool art. Like
cool.
Skateboarding like showed me Dinosaur Jr. when I was like 12 years old. You know what I mean? Like from watching skate videos.
Yeah.
So it just got me into so much cool shit, like Ed Templeton's artwork and like photography, and like Mark Gonzalez, his paintings. Like it just exposed so much to me.
Yeah, that's why I always say yes when a skateboard, like in the past, whenever a skateboard's like, hey, can we use your music for our video? Like, we can't pay you. I'm like, I don't give a yeah, because I know it will get that reach, and some kid will see it and they're like, this is sick.
Yeah, that's the dream. I have yet to have a song and a skate video bound across my. I have a song and a snowboarding video for Snowboarder
cool.
magazine. But I don't have any songs and any skate videos. Someday I will.
Dude, you gotta film your own skate video and put your own music in there. Do you think you still got the chops?
Gotta keep commenting on. I gotta keep commenting on Andrew Reynolds' Instagram. That's what I do. Yeah.
Do you think
I want to film my own skate video. I want to buy like a VX and like film my own skate video. It'd be very fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be tight. At least you trying to get like back into it. It could be like a documentary of you just trying to get back into it, man. That's what we want.
Maybe. I don't know. I actually had a really terrible injury last year from skateboarding. Yeah, I hit my head and like had a really, really bad concussion, amnesia. I lost lost 3 weeks of memories, just boom, gone. Like I woke up in my bed just like the next day, I had no idea what happened to me.
But it was actually 3 weeks.
I woke up the next day. My memory like came back, but like I lost 3 weeks of previous memories.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like didn't know what happened for a while. It was crazy.
Whoa.
But I thankfully, thankfully got better. But that stuff is really scary. Like I wear a helmet now. Yeah. I didn't wear a helmet before, and now I wear a helmet.
Whoa. Yeah, absolutely. It's like you think, I don't know. I've never skateboarded, but when I used to really ride a bike, when I was learning how to ride a bike when I was like 15, because I just didn't ride a bike when I was a kid. And then I was like at 15, I was like, okay, now's the time to ride a bike. I ate shit so often that like I always wear my helmet. Like I didn't know how to brake. So how I broke was just like falling. Yeah. I was like, I'll be good. I can handle this fall right now. But yeah.
Yeah. My whole thing was like, I have to realize that I'm 30 years old now, and I can't be like trying the same stuff I was trying when I was 16. And that's what happened. I ended up going to the skate park and asking people there if I looked familiar, and because I had no memory of what happened, And I found this one little kid, and he was like, "Oh my God, you're that dude."
Oh.
And I was like, "You know what happened to me?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, I saw you fall and hit your head. Like it was bad." Like, and he told me everything that happened. So I felt like I like solved the mystery, because when you like lose memories, man, dude, it's scary.
That's crazy. I can't even imagine that. Yeah. The closest thing that happened to me was, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was going to say the one thing that was kind of interesting from all of it was listening to my record when it was mixed, because like I said, 3 weeks of my memory were just gone. And like after I was able to kind of like walk around the house and I was like getting better, I like sat down and listened to my new record that's coming out for like what almost felt like the first time. Obviously I remembered a lot of it, but like that was around the time when I was like having it mixed and stuff. So yeah. A lot of those fine details of like the final mixes, I didn't remember. So listening to it was really crazy.
Yeah. And the mixing process can be so fucked up because you're just like at least for me, I'm always like double guessing myself. I'm like, oh, the drums are a little quiet. Oh, now they're a little loud. Like, so I can only imagine with the amnesia kicked in, like, oh shit. Yeah. It's like starting from scratch.
Yeah. It was weird. I think David Gilmour said he like, man, like it sucks being an artist. You can never truly listen to your album for the first time because you're listening to it every step of the way. But that was the closest I'll get to that,
And were you pleased with the mixes? You're like, oh, it's actually a pretty good mix. I don't know why I had so many notes.
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I still second guess myself all the time. I think that's
Are we ever pleased with
natural
the mix?
No, never.
Is there any part of the process you're like really pleased with? You're like, oh, the lyrics maybe I nailed it on the lyrics or the chords, or is there any process that you really feel good about?
I really didn't focus on lyrics at all on
Yeah.
this upcoming record. I like wanted the lyrics to just be like simple, and like I was listening to a lot of like the Shangri-Las and like like 60s like 60s groups that just write like straight up love songs. So like pop love songs. So the lyrics aren't crazy on this upcoming record. But this just the songwriting and like the arrangements and the chords and all that, like I spent a lot of time figuring out. I also am really happy with how the artwork came out. A painter from LA actually did it. I commissioned it from him. His
that's
name's
awesome.
Greg Hartunian, and he nailed it. Yeah.
Do we have a release date for the record?
May 14th.
Ooh, good day.
Yeah.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah. It's been done for a bit now, like about almost a year now it's been done.
Yeah.
But we kind of decided like, it feels like a spring album to us. Like it feels like an album that would make sense for the springtime. And also just like with how crazy it is, like this winter just didn't seem like a good time to put out a record,
Okay. So you started recording like in March last year, right? At the beginning of the pandemic, or?
I started recording this record in 2017.
Oh, really? Let's get
this record
that.
Has been like, yeah. So I started recording the record in 2017, like in that old farmhouse in New Hampshire. That's where I did California Blue, the first song I recorded. And then we all moved out of that farmhouse. I kind of like just had a few songs floating around here and there, but I didn't spend too much time like actually working on the record. I was busy with Cutworms and Hand Habits and all that. So I wasn't recording much. And it wasn't until like 2019 when I moved back to New Hampshire, because I moved out of that farmhouse, put all my stuff at my parents' house in New Jersey, went on tour for a couple of years basically, and then came back to New Hampshire. I was like, I need to finish this record. And the way it worked out was like, this kid has a studio space in our old barn in that house. And he had a deal with his landlord that even though we all moved out, he was able to keep that studio space there. So there's like a new family that live in the house, but we still have that studio space. So it was really weird. I like finished the record in my old house, not living there anymore. It was really strange, like being back there and like, just like recording in the spot that I used to record at every single day years later.
And now
that's where I finished the record.
And now you kind of feel like a stranger in your own home, Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So then, So, okay. 2017, how do you keep the, like, California Blue is so old. Like, how did you stay still so excited about that song? And cause by that point I'd be like, all right, there's new songs now. Like, how did you do that?
That's how I've been feeling for a super long time. I have so many other songs that just like aren't on this record. And I'm happy and proud of this record, but these are older songs and I'm ready to like work on new stuff,
Yeah. So do you think that we'll see your next record even quicker? Cause there's been a kind of a gap pretty large gap in between all your records. Like, do you think we'll see another record sooner than later?
I hope so. I'm hoping next year I'll have a new record. 2022 is a cool year to like put a record out, I think.
Totally.
2022, it's just like, I don't know, it has a ring to it.
It's got something to it. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And when touring does come back, I guess, I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, I know people will want to hear these songs we put out during the pandemic or whatever. Like, and I think people will give a little leeway, like, hey, this album's like from last year, but we didn't get to hear it last year. So do you think you'll still tour this record even though when things open back up?
We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows how it's going to go? I want to be as I want to try and stay positive, but there's also like a little devil on my shoulder too. It's just like shit's going to be crazy when touring comes back also, because now all these bands that haven't been on tour are all going to want to tour at the same time.
Yeah.
There's less venues now. I think that there's going to be like a resurgence of DIY shows.
Yeah.
And like a lot of bands that maybe wouldn't have been playing DIY shows a couple years ago will kind of resort to that. And I'm totally down.
You've already proven that you can do it through Instagram.
I miss that vibe. Like going to shows in like art galleries and like, I don't know, wherever, just like they're definitely memorable experiences rather than, just going to some like dingy rock and roll club sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would actually challenge more art galleries to start taking bands in. Maybe not like loud bands, but something that like fits the vibe, obviously. And then maybe something that fits the curation of the month, that they have there.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's probably going to be, if the Yawns go on tour when this all comes back, that might be the route we take. Because I've never had a booking agent either. So like when things come back, it's going to be super competitive. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I keep saying that too. It's like, agents already tried to keep it inside the agency, all these opening spots, everything's so gatekept that like it's going to be even more so now. And it's going to be so hard to try and get in unless you're like good friends with that band and like they personally ask you.
But there's always ways, like artists will always find a way to make things work.
Right.
So we'll find DIY spots. We'll have like different types of shows. Like things don't have to be this one certain way,
Yeah. And it brings back the importance of the community. Maybe we bring back more of the community aspect of music, like looking out for each other and booking each other's shows. Hey, you get me a show, I'll get you a show here, and we can work this thing out without the hands of the industry around us. Like I don't know, we could be looking at a very exciting post-pandemic time. Or
I think so. I think it's going to be more like grassroots growth and like I don't know. I think this past year, is kind of like a renaissance era for a lot of people that have, been stuck at home and make art, like a lot of cool stuff has come out of, people just being home all the time
and being on their phones and on the internet. And maybe this was the overdose of internet that we needed to be like, okay, I'm maybe a little done with the internet for a little bit. Like this might've been the OD,
Maybe. Seriously. Yeah. I feel that for sure. I've definitely spent way too much time looking at my stupid phone. But I try to catch myself when I'm doing it, and like I'll just delete Instagram off my phone for periods of time. Oh, that's good. And just like look at it on my laptop, if I need to look at it and stuff like that. But
yeah, I like that Instagram.com, the desktop version's like gotten a lot better. I was like, oh, because now I'll just use that. Like, I don't know. I also feel like Instagram's on its way out and I'm not like enjoying it as much as I used to. Like after they added all the stores and all this shit, I'm like, this is getting too much, man. I've actually found a good place in TikTok. That's where I've been. And that's where it's like, I don't know anyone on there. So I'm just posting goofy shit and like.
But that's what Instagram used to be.
I know.
Like goofy videos and like skits that you made with your friends, and then it just kind of changed. It changed over time. Before that, it was just like totally unattractive, just like random shit in your house that was like blurry and meaningless and like had like a filter on it,
Right.
Like, it's gone through many phases. It's interesting, like watching it all happen.
Right.
It's weird. For sure. Yeah. Like when I first I'm it's not like I'm that old, but like the first tours that I went on, no one had smartphones and we used straight up either maps or sometimes we had like a GPS that we bought from Walmart,
Right. Totally.
Yeah. And like, that's crazy, man. Also though, that trip that I went on that I met you on.
Yeah.
I did that whole trip with no smartphone. I had a flip phone. I had a flip phone and an iPod Touch at that point. So I could only use iPod if I was like on Wi-Fi, you know.
And then that's how you get your directions?
I got my directions through that, but I also had like an old GPS from Walmart. That just took me
I love it.
Took me like the most ass backwards ways
really?
to get places. It was terrible. Yeah.
Oh shit. What age did you start touring? What year was it?
I started touring when I was 18. It was 2008 was my first tour.
Right.
And it was only like a week and a half long. It wasn't too crazy. And then they just like got longer and longer throughout the years. But yeah, I started when I was 18, but it turned into like a full-time thing when I was probably like 20 years old.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. By 18, I was just like trying to figure out how is every band doing it? How do they do? I was like trying to wrap my head and constantly Googling, how do you tour? How do you do this? Like there's just were a little bit less resources and a little less people I knew who were actually doing it, especially in Santa Barbara. Like I just didn't know anyone who ever had done it and could show me that way. And that's why I think it's such a crazy, if I was 20 years old right now, I'd be like, oh yeah, let me just go watch some vlog of some band telling me how they do it, or listen to this podcast and they tell me how they do it. Like what advice do you give to a band trying, like an 18-year-old kid right now who's like, I want to book a tour?
I mean, when I was booking tours when I was 18, that was all done through MySpace.
Yeah.
Like I just find bands that lived in certain cities and message them and be like, hey, like, do you think we can play a show? But yeah, I don't know. Advice for like younger musicians that are trying to do this. Like,
yeah,
it really is all about like who you know and like meeting as many people as you can in a genuine way, because like sometimes you meet people that are like forcing themselves on you and you're just like, but like just playing shows and going to shows, meeting people, like it really comes down to like who you know. Like I know so many extremely talented musicians that write amazing songs, but they just like still live in like a super small town in New Jersey and just like never left and never really met too many people outside of their community. But that is the good thing about like Instagram and stuff, because you can like get in touch with other people through that,
Yeah, it's way easier just to be like, hey man, I love your band. Do you want to like, show for show? You come to my town, I go to your town. Yeah, totally, man. I think it's so much more different now. But yeah, I community based is always that's always the advice I always give. Like, make a friend. Don't just think, oh, I'm going to play this band, and because I played with this band, they're from Portland, so that means I can play Portland. Like, it's just like that's like using people to like, I don't know. It's just a bad, It's just like a bad skill to develop.
Exactly. And back on what I was saying before, like, like meeting people is really important, but also like, not climbing any social ladders at all. Like that's where you can get into some like weird, dark stuff, like I said, like genuinely meeting people, but it was hard for me because I was a very shy person in my early 20s. Like I was so shy, but music and like touring definitely has opened me up.
Yeah. Do you have like did you ever have stage fright or anything like that?
Oh yeah, dude, I had terrible anxiety, like soul crushing anxiety. Whoa. The first few times I played music on stage, when it like really fucked with me. And like, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like do this, the first show that I ever played, I like felt like I was like losing my mind when I was on stage, and it took a while for me to get over that. You? 18 was my first show.
18 was the first show. Okay, cool.
18 was the first show that I played. I lived in New Jersey. I drove all the way up to Boston to play my first show, because inside I was like, I know this is going to be bad. I know I'm going to fuck up. Yeah. So I'd rather do it in front of a bunch of complete strangers than all my friends who are going to like be like, dude, remember that show John played?
Oh no.
So I it took a while for me to get out of that mindset. It's terrible. And what helped me was playing drums, being in the back. Right. Being in the background, just kind of chilling, not being up front. That's what helped me on stage, like develop more confidence.
Oh man. What year do you think you built that confidence enough to be like, okay, I'm going to sing and be up front?
I don't know. I was probably like 20 at that point.
Oh man. And were you still building that confidence, or you're like, I just gotta like throw myself out there? I guess I have, I have no other options. If I want to do what I want to do, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
What was that first moment?
It came through playing with Quilt. Like I said, we were all learning everything at the same time. And it's like, they weren't, they had no more experience than I did. So like, yeah, we were all really nervous in the beginning of that band. Like we all kind of got stage fright from time to time, but I think we like grew together.
Right. Someone asked, what is your process like for writing new music?
What's the process for new music?
Yeah.
I've been demoing a lot on my 4-track. I bought a new 4-track a few months back, and I just keep it on top of my piano or Wurlitzer with the microphone and everything all set up. I keep a notebook up there, and I keep my drum machine up there, and I'll just like songs, I would say, come to me when I'm like not trying to write songs, like when I'm just like doing tours around the house, or if I'm driving or whatever. Like I'll just kind of like think of a melody or a lyric and just kind of like save it real quick on
the voice memo.
Yeah, that's like such a helpful tool for songwriters, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of play around with it and record like a quick like 20-second version of just like a verse and maybe a little bit of a chorus on my 4-track. And it's always changing and evolving, and it's like a big piece of clay that you're like, starts off this size and you're trying to like mold it into something else. Another thing that I have a buddy who enjoys recording music and writing songs, and he's been having a hard time writing new material. Mm-hmm. And I suggested to like, just as an exercise, try like adding a verse to a song that's already written that you just know very well. Like I suggested Candy Says by the Velvet Underground. I was like write another verse to Candy Says, and then just like take those new lyrics that you kind of like riffed off of this song and maybe like try just completely different chords to it. And like the melody will like naturally change, and you'll have like this little scrap that maybe like was inspired by something, but isn't totally that thing. And it's like I think that's like a good exercise of like, experimenting.
Yeah. Beating that writer's block, cause sometimes you get, at least for me, sometimes I get on the piano or the guitar and I'm like, I know all my tricks already. And like, I want to write something that's fresh and new. So it's like, it's like trying to go back and that's a great one, man. I like that. Yeah.
Cause you're not necessarily ripping off Candy Says, cause you're writing new lyrics to this verse and then you're changing the chords.
Right. But it's a good way. It's like, music is all derivative to begin with. Like, interesting. I had like a weird album review for my last record that was like, it's a little derivative. Like it's all derivative. Like, and it was purposely meant to be that way. Like,
totally.
You're feeling the way you're feeling because I wanted you to feel that way. Like it's all on purpose. And there's nothing, I was going to say something about the voice memo. There's always, there's nothing worse than like listening back to an old voice memo and you're like, oh, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, what was that?
I did that. Yeah. I did that today. I have really, really funny ones. Like, dude, it could be a straight up comedy record if I released I'm like beatboxing and like singing some weird melody that makes absolutely no sense and without the context of what I originally thought.
Dude, but it sounds so good up here.
I know
it sounds so good.
That's the trick, is like being able to like grab that rough idea and like keep running with it.
What about those songs you make in your dreams? Do you have any of those?
I've never ever been able to really capture any of it.
It sounds so good in your dream.
I've like woken from a dream and like heard something in my head that was like amazing.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to actually like run with it.
Me neither.
Yeah, they always get away from me. But one of these days I'll snag them. Yeah.
They're like so produced and sound so beautiful in your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, man. What was I gonna say? We talked about writer's block, voice memos. Will the Yawns maintain the same core group for tours or alter, i.e., John Andrews' all-star band?
What was the question?
Will the Yawns maintain the same core group? I guess I think they missed some words for like your players, where you have the same people and they are compared to the John Andrews All-Star Band.
I don't know who the band's going to be to be honest. Like I have an idea of who I would like the band to be, but by the time touring comes around, I don't know. Like some of my friends have like full-time jobs now. Right. And like, so do I. I have a full-time job now. So I'm like, yo, am I even going to be able to do like extensive touring when that comes around?
Yeah.
I have a few people that like have played with me throughout the years. Like, my buddy Noah, Kevin, and Luke have played with me for a long time. Mm-hmm. And we'll just see when the time comes if they're like available to do it. I really don't know.
Yeah.
Who I would ask.
That's true.
It's New Hampshire. There's not a huge scene up here,
Right. Where do you play in New Hampshire? Like, are there good venues or?
There is a venue in Portsmouth, New Hampshire called 3S, and that's like the only venue that like touring bands like Jessica Pratt or like Riley Walker or whoever will come through and play. That's kind of it.
Interesting.
Otherwise, there's some like local bands, and they're like friends and acquaintances of mine, but it's not like we're in this like scene together.
Yeah.
Like they play their shows, and I've lived here for years, and I've played here once, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Kind of like a whatever show.
Where do you think people from that area go to? It's like if I live in Santa Barbara, everyone's like, you got to get to LA. If you live, outside New York, you got to be in New York. Where do people in New Hampshire feel the pressure to leave to?
Well, New Hampshire is a pretty cool place to live because you're an hour from Portland, Maine, and Portland, Maine is awesome.
Ooh, I haven't been.
And you're an hour from Boston.
Okay, so Boston, that feels like the place. Okay, we should go play shows in Boston.
Yeah, two pretty cool cities. And that's the thing. Like when I first moved to New Hampshire, I was touring so much and playing so much that like I didn't want to live somewhere where there was like a huge music scene. Like that was like part of the reason I moved to Barrington in the first place. It was in the middle of the woods. But yeah, if I want to go to a show, I just drive an hour.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Someone asked, solo or band, which is more productive for you?
Repeat that. You paused for a second.
Sorry. Solo or in a band, which is more productive for you? That's the question.
More productive. My ideal situation would to be in a room with a drummer.
Right.
Like a drummer and a bass player. That's like my ideal situation, but it just doesn't happen very often. Yeah. It's like, it's each side of that is going to produce something totally different. Like I can write something on my own that I would never be able to write in a group of people. And I can write something with a group of people that I'd never be able to write on my own. So I think it's just like a balance of both of those things.
Was touring more lonely when it was just by yourself? Did you get more lonely?
Yeah, dude, I kind of did. Like, it's weird. My friend said this to me. He's someone that I know from New Jersey, and he has driven across the country many times by himself on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But he was like, it's weird. Like when you're driving through the desert, you feel like just like totally fulfilled and like excited, and you just like feel like yourself. And it's not until you get into the cities and you're around people, that's when you start to feel lonely.
Yeah.
When you're like around people that you don't know, that's when you start to feel lonely. But it was really, that trip was really amazing. I actually just watched this film called Nomadland.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch that.
It's really good. It's
Really?
really, really good. It's on Hulu. And
Yeah.
there were a few scenes in that movie that like reminded me of the feeling when I like had a couple days off on that tour and I was just like aimlessly driving around by myself,
Right.
in like a part of the country where I didn't know anyone. And like it's this really weird feeling when it's like you feel totally free, but then you also like feel kind of lonely too.
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta watch that one. Do you miss the movie experience? Because I love going to the movies.
I love going to the movie theaters so much, and I really, really miss it. The last movie that I saw was 1917. And I saw it in Manchester in the UK, which was kind of crazy because that's like, where the war kind of took place, and that was in February of last year, like right before COVID happened. I was on my last tour.
Oh, you guys were on? Yeah.
Yeah, we were like on tour when we started hearing about coronavirus, and I was like, that's not good.
Yeah.
I remember hearing like, there's a few cases in Hamburg, Germany, and we were like in Hamburg, Germany. I was like, oh shit, that's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really miss going to the movie theaters though. Like the Regal theater near us just like went out of business, unfortunately.
Oh shit.
I'm sure someone will buy it again and it'll reopen eventually because it's a landmark in the area. Like it's been there forever. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of movies at home. I subscribe to the Criterion channel.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about that.
Bunch of good stuff on there. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Criterion's one of those ones I need to hop on, but I miss it, man. I love going. I think the last one I saw was Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, Jojo Rabbit was really good.
Yeah, I really love. Yeah, and there's just like all the movies that have come out streaming on these streaming platforms. Like obviously my TV is not built for that, the surround sound, like so it's missing it. Like at least I didn't finish that Wonder Woman movie. Not that I'm like a big superhero kind of movie person, but like it's definitely missing the boom, the loudness. Like, oh, okay, this is just a weird movie. The suspension of
disbelief. It's like it's definitely more difficult to feel that when you're in your bedroom and you can like see your dirty laundry like sitting next to you, as opposed to when you're in this big room that's literally built to watch movies in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the live action Mulan too. I was like, man, this is not working. I don't know. This is not the wave of the future. Even though people think it is. People think movies are on their way out. The movie theaters are on their way out. But I don't know. I think there will still be a need for movie theaters post pandemic. I love it. It's so fun.
I think it'll come back. It's cool that drive-in theaters, kind of had a resurgence, because there's one in Maine not too far from here that I've been to a few times before the pandemic happened, and then they were doing it all last summer, and we went to a few.
Cool. Did you see anything old or new, or what'd they show?
Yeah, the first time I went, we saw The Goonies.
Oh, cool.
Which I had never seen before. I don't know how I've never seen The Goonies growing up.
I still haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I just know it's like a thing.
Yeah. So I saw The Goonies, which I had never seen before, and then we saw last time we saw Indiana Jones.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We have a drive-in theater in Santa Barbara, and I went to go see Willy Wonka and The Wizard of Oz. I was like,
cool.
I was like back-to-back feature, but then I fell asleep during Willy Wonka because it just gets later, and you're like, all right, I'm knocking out. I'm tired.
I have a hard time staying up late.
Yeah.
This bad.
Have you always been that way, or is that something you're realizing now? Because as I'm getting older, I'm knocking out like at 10 or 9.
Yeah. Me too, man. I'm definitely like a morning person for sure. Like, I have friends that are able to like record music like late into the night, and I'm like, no way, dude. I'm like losing my mind at that point. Like, I definitely thrive like first thing in the morning, bunch of coffee, start working on stuff. Like, I don't know how people can go into like late night sessions and feel like they're being productive, but a lot of people are like, are like that. I feel like, do you know Kevin Basco?
Yeah. I just talked to him.
I feel like he's kind of like a late night recording artist. I could be wrong though. He like strikes me as one for some reason.
Yeah, totally. Definitely.
I could totally be wrong though. But I'm definitely an early morning person.
That's funny. Somebody asked on Instagram, what's a typical day for you? We could go there.
Typical day is I wake up at like 6:45 every day. Uh, have some breakfast, go to work. I work from like 8 to 4 mostly, and then come home. Like, dude, I like don't do much. It's crazy. If it's nice out, if it's really nice out, I will go skateboarding. There's like a park nearby that I'll like go skate out for a few hours. I cook dinner every night. Pretty like domestic life these days. Like I like have not really hung out with anyone in a long time.
Are you in a relationship?
Yeah, I live with my girlfriend.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, this winter I just have been working on a ton of animations and artwork here and there, and just trying to keep myself busy, like as far, just like making art. That's like the only thing I can do to like, I can get like very depressed in the wintertime. And that's like the only thing I can do to like help battle like my depression is like work on animations and paintings and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's talk about the animations, man. Like, is that like, I don't know, I'm not used to that world. Is that like even more time consuming than music?
Yeah, it's very, very like repetitive, very time consuming for sure. But I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. Like just like sitting down, listening to music, listening to podcasts, or I'll just have like a TV show playing that I can just listen to. And yeah, you just kind of draw the same thing over and over again for hours. And
yeah,
I feel like, Jack Nicholson in The Shining sometimes, but,
how'd you get into that?
I don't even remember. I mean, honestly, I feel like I've been kind of doing this stuff my whole life. Like since I was a little kid, I've been doing like a variation of what I do now. But yeah, I feel like I first started doing animations I was probably like 18 or something. I was really into like Max Fleischer cartoons, like Betty Boop, Betty Boop cartoons. They're so like, they're like psychedelic. They're crazy.
Yeah.
And they're really funny. But I used to love Betty Boop cartoons and just like wanted to make my own. And yeah, obviously like mine are like sketchy and weird looking, but I think some people like that about them. I just made one for Home Shake a couple months ago. That was like, that's probably my favorite one that I've made so far.
So when someone commissions an animation from you, is there a lot of direction, or they're just saying, hey, do whatever you want? Like, are you listening to the song a bunch? Like, how was that Home Shake collaboration?
Peter was really easy to work with, and he was just like, this song is about my cat.
Cool.
And the cat needs to attack my feet at the end of it. And I was like, all right, we can make that happen. And then I just kind of like listened to the song and like, got the vibe of it. And it definitely like seemed like a black and white, like noir film to me.
Cool.
So I kind of like ran with that, and he was totally down. I just sent him like a quick little treatment, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. He was super easy to work with.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so, how do you record it? Is it just literally taking photo?
Yep. Yeah. I draw everything on individual pieces of paper, and then I have a stop animation program and like a DSLR camera, and I just try my best to light it decently, and then I capture it all with the stop animation program and press play.
Do you have a thing for your DSLR where it's like a little like cage and it's like looking up from the top?
I'm like
holding it.
I wish. Mine's like pretty haggard. I just have a tripod that I like put one leg down all the way and try to have it like as vertical as possible.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I wish I had that thing. That'd be nice. Maybe I should invest in one.
Yeah, I feel like it might make your life just a little, just like one little bit easier. Yeah. I look into that stuff all the time because I'm always like thinking about YouTube videos, and it's just like an area I just neglected for so long. Like, do you have a YouTube channel? Are you putting stuff up there besides music?
I have a YouTube channel, but it's like I didn't realize that that's like a world that people are like into, to be honest.
Totally.
Like, yeah, it's like a whole nother thing. But I have a YouTube channel that's just like, I think I just really put like performances of my band on there and like a few animations here and there. But yeah, I I didn't realize until like very recently that is like a whole world. I think through like I listened to a skateboarding podcast, and they were talking about like, yeah, like more people need to get into YouTube. Like people love subscribing to all that stuff. Yeah.
And it's like one of the few platforms that pays you. And now TikTok, if you reach a certain level, it pays you. It's like at some point, every social media should be paying us to even be on there, because it's like now the power shift is happening. It's like I have X amount of followers, I have X amount of reach, and it's like they're still like, you should pay us to even talk to your fans. Well, no, you should pay me, because that's why they're on the fucking platform, is to see me, not me in particular, but me, the artist. Like, yeah, so I think social media will be changing like that real soon. I think it will be less fun for them in the long run. At Facebook and Instagram, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck? We're not gonna start paying you guys. Fuck out of here." But like YouTube, TikTok, all these other random ones, they're starting to pay now, which is kind of cool.
That's great.
That's where I'm putting my focus on, at least the YouTube. Like, I would like something for my work. Give me something for my work, you know?
Yeah, you deserve it, man.
Putting the power back into the creators. Like, I talked to Chris Cohen on the podcast, and he and I had a long conversation about Patreon. Were you doing have you done a Patreon? Is that something you've been interested in?
I've never done a Patreon, but Max from Cutworms was doing it. And I think it's a totally, like, it's awesome. I think that's a great, format for musicians or artists to like make a little extra money. Like I'm someone who I guess comes from like zine culture also too. Right. Like I really love zines, and like in a way when you're like subscribing to this like artist, it's kind of like you're subscribing to like a little magazine of them, but it's just like digital and like on your phone. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think that's awesome. I've never done one. Right now, I have such a like weird relationship with social media when like I'm trying not to do too much on there. I'm trying to like keep my releases and like my content like limited. But someday maybe.
One thing I keep thinking about, like, I wonder if it's just people our age, you know, because we saw the world pre-internet.
Yeah.
And like, we're still grasping on to like, oh, remember how great that was before the internet, before social media. And I wonder if younger people even think about that, because they don't know. I guess I should ask my little sisters. They would know better. But like, yeah, they don't know the world prior to that. So there's nothing to grasp onto. This is just how it's always been. There's always been internet. There's always been social media. And I wonder if it's our age that we're like, I'm going to delete Instagram for a bit. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get off. I'm going to like disconnect, because I remember how nice it was when I could disconnect, or there was nothing to disconnect from. I think about that a lot.
Right. I think it's going to run its course, in the sense of like I said, I don't want to sound too like pessimistic, but I think
it's okay.
Eventually people are going to get like burnt out on this stuff.
Right.
And it's going to be like too oversaturated or whatever. And I think that there's going to be like, maybe like, like I was saying earlier, like a resurgence of more DIY, like DIY stuff, like outside of the internet. For this next record that we're doing, like, it's funny, like I had the idea to just print posters and maybe like go around town and put posters up in the record stores and stuff like that. And it's just interesting that like doing something like that is like almost considered thinking outside of the box these days.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
Like the very basic act of putting up a physical poster is almost like outside of the box, like PR. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
I used to do that in Santa Barbara for my shows. Like when I have a show coming up, let's put the flyer up around town. And I'd make a whole day out of it. And then like people are like, why are you doing that? Do you think that sells tickets? I'm like, I thought that's what you're supposed to do. This is like,
I bet it does. I really think it does. I'm moving because the sun is starting to take over my whole face. But like I did the same thing last year for a show that I played.
Right.
And I went around town and put up flyers that I made in the record store, and it was so much fun, dude. It was so much fun. Whether or not people saw it and came, still it felt good to like do something like physical that exists somewhere, you know.
It's a little bit of that tradition, man. That old like the same thing of setting up your gear and sound checking it. Like it's that tradition of rock and roll, what we signed up to do, right? Like promote ourselves and put our flyers up and people are walking around. I don't know. At least that's the fantasy of what I thought the 90s were like.
Totally.
And, yeah, I don't know. That's what I loved about it. Yeah, I don't know.
Me too, man.
Okay. How many songs are on this next record? Let's talk about the record and then we can wrap up.
We got 10 new songs on the new record.
Cool.
But two of them are instrumental songs.
Oh, sweet.
So it's a shorter record. I think it's like 34 minutes, 10 songs. Which I think that like today is like a pretty decent length, 34 minutes.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know. People's attention spans, like, I think the shorter the better at this point.
I think my new record was like 28 minutes or something. I was just like, didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, this is what I wrote for this project. And are you writing in bulk or are you writing for the project? Like, this is what I wrote for this project. And then the next one will be for the next project.
Well, I guess part of the reason this album is called Cookbook is because it's like a bunch of different elements from all over my life, all kind of like together within this one product.
I guess we're picking from a pool from 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had so much all over the place that, it's like different parts of my life all together in this one little, cookbook. So yeah, that's kind of like the vibe of the record. It is all over the place.
What's the experience for you listening to this record? Does it take you back? Like, does it like immediately, this song, I know exactly where I was when I wrote this song. Like, now this one, oh my God, this record's all over the place. Like emotionally for
you. Right now, if I'm completely honest, I'm so over this record.
Right. Yeah.
I'm over it. I can't hear it. I can't listen to it. Like, I think it's been so long in the making, and I've heard the song so many times throughout the years of working on it that I've almost like lost my emotional connection with a lot of them, which is a bummer. It's a bummer. But that can happen sometimes if you work on something for too long. But I'm sure once I'm on to my next project and in the future, and I look back at this record, I'll feel very differently. I'm sure I will. Yeah. Because that right now, when I look at my last record, Bad Posture, that's the record that brings back the most memories that like makes me like feel something if I ever listen to it, or play those songs live,
I listened to it at the gym yesterday because I am going back to the gym. I'm finally back in the gym. I realized that everyone's so afraid of the gym that they're fucking empty. There's no one there. I'm like, this is actually pretty chill. Nice. So I listened to it. And it's great, man. Bad Posture is really. Drivers is such a good song. There's so many great songs on there. Like, and
thanks,
that was like I can imagine like going back. There's a few records. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by a lot of my songs too. Like, because you just get older and you're like, yep, that's 20. That's 21-year-old me. Like trying to do this. Like, yeah. So, but that record has such a great cohesive sound. It really felt like a really complete piece of work. That like, I would imagine you do feel proud about that record and. There's something to be proud of, about all of our records. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I'm just floating. Go ahead.
That's kind of how I feel about that record. Like it was like a very specific time in my life that I feel like I like was recording a bunch during that very specific time, and it all just like came together in a way that made sense. And I'm really happy. I'm happy with that record and proud of that record. I'm sure in a couple of years I'll be able to say that I'm proud of this upcoming record.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear it.
I'm really hard on myself. And that's something that a lot of friends have told me recently, and I need to like learn from and try to work on. But
it's the way of the artist, man. It's the way of the musician. Like it goes up and down. Like sometimes I'm fucking hyped about my new record. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I can't listen to this fucking thing anymore. But
I think that's totally okay to feel that way.
That's normal. Yeah. It's very normal.
Some days I'm in a great mood and some days I'm cranky,
Yeah. Sometimes I sit down at that piano and nothing comes out.
Yeah.
And you have to accept those days too. Like, okay, nothing came out today. That's fine. That's okay. Versus before I used to beat myself up. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like I sat down for 8 hours and nothing happened. Like, And I've learned now as I get older that that's going to happen. It's fine. That shit happens.
Yeah.
Like, not every
It
day.
does,
You're not going to write a song
And
every
like
day.
some days, you know, you're going to write an amazing song. And then some days you're going to sit down and like watch Trailer Park Boys for
Right.
2 hours. You know what I mean? It's like, and like, you can't like beat yourself up if you're, you know, some days a little lazy, you know?
Right.
Like,
So, and also that like you're still going to write bad songs.
yeah.
You know, it's about weeding them through and picking out the best ones to put out. But like the idea that every song's gonna be a banger, every song's gonna be this, it's like that's not realistic. That's not how it works.
Right.
You know, it's a process.
That's what's cool about listening to like unreleased songs of certain artists,
Yeah.
or like the Beach Boys sessions for 2020 and Friends and all those are like on Spotify right now, and like they're all amazing. They're all like incredible, but it is interesting like seeing the stuff that like didn't make the cut, or you know, alternate takes or whatever. That stuff is like a whole lesson in music right there, listening to all that. And a similar thing going back to skateboarding, there's this guy, he's a skateboard filmer, Beagle, that I really like. He filmed all the Baker guys. And he's been releasing just like the raw, unedited footage of people skateboarding.
Cool.
And it's like 15 minutes of like people trying a trick and like falling and trying it over and over and over again. And then like finally in the end, you see like them land it. Because when you're watching a skate video, you only watch people land the tricks. You don't think about like the whole battle that it takes. Like so many fails just for like one make. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the same thing with music.
Yeah. Oh, I have so many alternate versions of songs that just didn't make sense or like sounded bad. And I just like kicked them out. You know?
I love it, man. Do you play video games?
I have a PlayStation. My girlfriend got it for me last Christmas, because prior to that, I never really played.
Yeah.
And my buddy was like, yo, you got to get Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, she got me a PlayStation, Red Dead Redemption. And
But
I went through a pretty serious phase of playing it. I haven't beaten it yet. I kind of know that I'll get too addicted to playing it. So I limit myself. But like when I first got it, the first couple, like maybe like the first 2 months of having it, oh my God, I stayed up like till 3 a.m. every single night playing that. And you like don't even realize where the time goes. You're like, oh my God, I just played this for like 4 hours, you know?
But did you buy Tony Hawk yet?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was pretty pumped to play that. It's really funny listening to all those old songs on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like Millen Cullen and like, oh yeah, dude, the Motorhead song. It's so
there's
good.
there's a band from Santa Barbara on there, and that's always like, oh, thank
No
God.
way.
Lagwagon.
Oh yeah, I remember Lagwagon.
Just
Definitely
another sunny day. Yeah.
I used to love all that stuff, man. I still do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny though, like recently I was playing Tony Hawk Pro Skateboarder, but I wasn't listening to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I was just listening to my own records, and like my girlfriend walks in and I'm playing Tony Hawk, listening to Joni Mitchell. And it's just like I'm like, yeah. You know?
Help me, I think I'm falling in love again. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, hell yeah, man. Well, sweet. Let's wrap it up. What's the best way for people to support John Andrews and the Yawns right now?
Pre-order the new record on woodsys.com. And yeah, come to a show when they happen sometime.
Hell yeah.
Who knows when.
Cool. Well, sounds good, man. Hey, thanks so much for being on the pod, and hopefully I see you soon.
Yeah, take care, man.
Cool, man.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.